This video, not for the faint at heart, so just as a warning. Looking at Albert Fish, American serial killer, committed a minimum of 3 child murders. We are going into the Flushing Cemetery, where, fittingly so, he is buried in an unmarked grave. Actually did ask to see the general area or even where the unmarked grave was. They really couldn't help me. They weren't familiar, but they weren't sure, rather. So this is the area where it would be more or less in the beginning of the park. Fitting, though. Unmarked grave. Who would visit such a lowlife? Known as the Gray Man, the Werewolf, Brooklyn Vampire, the Moon Maniac, and the Boogeyman. He was a suspect in at least 5 murders during his lifetime. Confessed to 3 that police were able to trace to a known homicide, and he confessed to stabbing at least 2 other people. One of the murders, May 25th, 1928, Fish saw a classified advertisement in the Sunday edition of the New York World that read, "Young man, 18, wishes position in country. Edward Budd, 406 West 15th Street." So on May 28th, Fish, then 58 years old, visited the Budd family in Manhattan under the pretense of hiring Edward. Later confessed that he planned to tie Edward up, mutilate him, and leave him to bleed to death. Fish introduced himself as Frank Howard, a farmer from Farmingdale, which is Long Island, not too far away from Flushing Cemetery here. He promised to hire Bud and his friend Willie, and he said he would send for them in a few days. Fish failed to show up, but he sent a telegram to the Budd family apologizing and set a later date. When Fish returned, he met Edward's younger sister, Grace Budd. He apparently changed his intended victim from Edward to Grace and quickly made up a story about having to attend his niece's birthday party. He convinced the parents to let Grace accompany him to the party that evening. The elder Albert Budd was a porter for the United States Equitable Life Assurance Society. Grace had a younger sister, Beatrice, 2 older brothers, Edward and George, a younger brother, and Grace slept with Fish that day, but never returned. They arrested an individual in Grace's disappearance, but he was found not guilty. Fast forward to November of 1935. An anonymous letter was sent to Grace's parents, which ultimately led the police to Fish. Miss Budd was illiterate, and she couldn't read the letter herself. So she had her son read it to her. The letter read, "My dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on the steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, and he and two others went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At the time, there was a famine in China. Meat of any kind was $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all the children of the 12 were sold to butchers to be cut up and sold for food in order to keep them from starving. A boy or girl under 14 was not safe in the street. You could go any shop and ask for steak chops or stew meat. A part of the naked body of a boy or girl will be brought out and just what you wanted cut from it. And the letter goes on and on and on. Talking about ultimately cannibalism. And he talked about cannibalism in regards to Grace Budd. And that he was ultimately confessing. What later, the police investigated the letter. The story concerning Captain Davis and the famine in Hong Kong could not be verified. The part of the letter concerning the murder of Grace was found to be accurate, although it was impossible to confirm whether or not he had actually eaten parts of Grace's body. So he was put to trial for the murder of Grace Budd in March of 1935. Trial lasted for 10 days. And Fish, well, he pleaded insanity and claimed to have heard voices from God telling him to kill children. Several psychiatrists testified about his fetishes, which included sadism, exhibitionism, voyeurism, cannibalism. Psychiatrists said that he has never seen an individual that's possessed so many sexual abnormalities. Well, thankfully, he was found guilty. Executed by an electric chair. a man that I'm sure has a truly special place in hell next to the devil. Albert Fish.